Hello guys and welcome to my BFA Assassination Rogue guide for 8.0.1. My name is Squiggle and today I'm going to be talking you guys through how to do the best damage as an Assassination Rogue in Mythic Plus and in raiding scenarios. Now unfortunately I have been away for a few months. I've been, doing some pretty unimportant stuff, just real life and getting married. It's all quite boring. So it made me think the whole time that I was doing it, I should get back to my computer and do what really matters, topping DPS on the rogue. So today I'm going to be talking you guys through the wisdom I have been picking up over the last couple of months and what I think assassination does best and how to do these, of course. In this video I'm going to be going over what Azerite traits we want to be running, what simulations look like, stats, talents, and much more. I'm also going to be going over what we are going to be doing differently in AoE and single target situations, and things to consider for raiding and Mythic Plus alike. So without further ado, here is my guide and enjoy. Now first off, I'm going to be talking briefly why you should be playing predominantly Assassination Rogue at the moment. So first off, we can see here through Mythic Talent logs that Assassination Rogue is actually the best single target for all of the rogue specs, if you take into consideration one or two targets. Now the reason for this is Vendetta and Haste Scaling are both very good, and in terms of uptime on the boss, I feel like Assassination Rogue loses less damage if they don't have that high uptime. So even doing mechanics, it's honestly fine for the Assassination Rogue as long as you can get your burst windows in. Now on top of this, we can see that the 2 target cleave for Assassination Rogue is quite potent as well if we look at a fight like Vectus. Of course, nothing like the Arms Warrior or the Frost Death Knight, but they are quite specialized for the 2 target cleave. However, Assassination Rogue does do the very good boss damage that we like to see. On top of this, they are a very tanky class. They do have Crimson Vial, Feint, and they have Cloak of Shadows, of course, not to mention the incredible cheat death, which I always love, and it helps me when I make my little mistakes from time to time. Now, last but not least, we can see in Mythic Plus, the Assassination Rogue is dominating. Now, a lot of the top key comps that you're going to see include a Death Knight, a Blood Death Knight of course, a Assassination Rogue, and a Havoc Demon Hunter. The rest of the DPS and the healers are quite flexible from there on. However, Assassination Rogue is best for most of the keys in my opinion. Next off, I'm going to be showing a simple sim of what we should be aiming to do on the Assassination Rogue in terms of our Azerite traits and our talents. So as we can see here, the double dose ×3 is going to be the best if you can obtain it. Now, this is going to be coupled in with the Master Assassin, as obviously double dose getting extra crits is going to be very good in our opener. Now I must add that in raiding we do want to be running at least one Archive of the Titans, and this, if you have been farming it up for the last 8 weeks, will give us a huge secondary bonus stat, which is probably going to be haste if you have been stacking your gear properly. Now back to the Azerite traits that we are going to be running for single target. Now as you can see, Archive of the Titans ×10 is just flat out amazing. This is a must have and it is very easy to obtain if you do mythic raiding. However, if you can get one of these pieces at 370 or 355 from the lesser raids, then these are very potent as well, just because of the reorigination array. Next up, we have double dose. This is a no-brainer. This is a very strong Azerite trait, and ideally single target, we want to be running 2 of these. Now we are going to be looking at what is better for AoE situations, namely Mythic Plus. Now, Shrouded Suffocation is going to be our best Azerite trait for the Mythic Plus, simply because it allows us to grow multiple targets, and Mythic Plus environment allows us to get our stealths off quite regularly in between pulls. Now, if you are looking to do AoE, however you don't have many of these Shrouded Suffocation traits, what I recommend is you guys go for Archive of the Titans, Champion of Azeroth, or something that does not lose damage area of effect. Of course, double dose is very good 1 to 2 target. However, from there, it really does drop off, because there is going to be a point where you want to be using your fan of knives predominantly at 3+ target. So now we're going to look back over these talents that I was talking about. So first row, we are going to be using our elaborate planning. This makes our finishing moves grant 10% increased damage done for 4 seconds, and this increases all of your damage done. So you can pool your energy a little bit and play around this to increase the windows of your elaborate planning. However, if you just play as per usual, just use things on cooldown, it won't really hinder your damage that much. After this, we are going to be running Subterfuge for 2+ target and Master Assassin for single target. This will allow us to garrote multiple targets and potentially even get more silences on more targets in our Mythic Plus, and this is a must-have if we are running the Shrouded Suffocation trait. Next up, Vigor is going to be a set and forget. Really makes the playstyle nice and smooth and nice and quick. Honestly, this is a godsend. I don't know how I ever played with Deepest Stratagem back in the start of last expansion. For the tier 60, we are going to be looking at Cheat Death being mostly set and forget in this row. I just think it's much better than both of these in the same tier. Next up, I can talk about Iron Wire all day and how it is fantastic. I think this is something I would take 90% of the time, and you will see this and how much it does in Mythic Plus if you give it a try for yourself. Next up, we're going to have Toxic Blade for our single target and our Exsanguinate for our Mythic Plus build. This is simply because we are running a more bleed and bursty build, which really ties well with our Exsanguinate. So we're going to be going for the big ruptures, the big garrotes, and of course the big energy regen, which this allows us to get. Last but not least, we have Poison Bomb versus Crimson Tempest. Now in Mythic Plus, I recommend going Crimson Tempest most of the time. I think that if you are pulling consistently 3+ target, Crimson Tempest is fantastic. However, if you are doing something like a King's Rest, I recommend running Poison Bomb, as boss DPS is far more important than the 2 or 3 big pulls in the instance. Now, of course, as you guys can see, we are going to be running this for our single target, our Cookie Cutter build, and like I said before, the only thing that we change out if we are going the Shrouded Suffocation route is we are going to go Subterfuge, Exsanguinate, and Crimson Tempest in Mythic Plus situations. Next up, I'm going to be talking us through what stats we want to be running for the Assassination Rogue. Now, first up, we can see that weapon DPS is going to be absolutely huge, especially for our single target. For this reason, you want to be getting some nice fat weapons, and you want to be farming those and re-rolling those every single week for hope of Titan Forging. Now after this, we are going to be running Haste as our biggest stat. This is even bigger than Agility at this point, and Haste is only going to get better for the Assassination Rogue as the expansion goes on. Now after this, like I said, we have our Agility and then our Critical Strike rating. Now just a current disclaimer, Critical Strike rating is fantastic for our single target DPS, however it is not as good for AoE situations, namely in Mythic Plus. The reason for this is critical strikes are based around our combo point regeneration. However, if we are making our build mostly about the garrote opener, then this is going to devalue critical strike quite a bit. After this, we are going to see our mastery and our versatility coming in, and followed up finally by the offhand weapon DPS. Now, this is quite impactful, as it means that we want to be running haste and mastery for our Mythic Plus set, as these are going to make our bleeds a lot stronger. Then after this, the offhand weapon DPS means that you want to be going an offhand with nice stats, preferably a gem. And what this is going to mean is that your offhand weapon is just a stat stick, and then your main hand weapon is just going to be your huge eye level hit. Now finally, I'm going to be talking about what trinkets you want to be running on the Assassination Rogue. Now first up, if you guys do not have any good trinkets and you have a bit of spare gold lying around, make sure you guys get the Dark Moon deck Fathoms. I adore these Dark Moon decks, and I get them on all of my ults. They are just really cost effective, really efficient for gearing up a new character, and really getting into those 10s and grinding out these fantastic trinkets. On to the next part, we are going to be looking at the First Mate Spyglass, the Gale Caller's Boon, Dread Aspirant's Medallion, and the Lustrous Golden Plumage. Now, of course, if you do your PvP, you can get these Dread Gladiators things. However, you need to be quite rating to get a good one, or you just need to be quite lucky on the Titan Forging. And then, of course, for the Mythic Plus trinkets, I really do rate the Gale Caller's Boon very good, especially in these burst AoE situations in your Mythic Plus. If you're doing a huge pull and you've got your Vanish up and you've got your Gale Caller's Boon, you are just going to be doing a disgusting amount of damage. And the same thing goes for the Lustrous Golden Plumage. I like these trinkets where you can really impact the way that you play and how much damage you're doing just by thinking a little bit about the timing on your trinkets. However, of course, the First Mate Spyglass is just one thing that you can sort of forget about, and it's going to be giving you some crazy single target critical strike rating. Another thing worth noting is that I really do like the Harlan's loaded dice for Mythic Plus. I have a 381 myself, and this is the sort of thing which can just proc and give you an insane amount of DPS. And of course, you can use this with an on-use trinket. However, you cannot use the Lustrous Golden Plumage and the Gale Caller's Boon together. So for our opener, I'm going to show you guys 3 openers that we are going to be using in certain situations. The first one is going to be, of course, our Shrouded Suffocation and Toxic Blade opener, followed by our Master Assassin opener without the Shrouded Suffocation traits. And then, of course, I'm going to show you guys a brief opener about what we want to be doing in Mythic Plus scenarios. So the main thing to remember with our Toxic Blade is we are trying to get our Vendetta up as soon as possible and then whack in a Toxic Blade followed up by as many Envenoms as we can. So for this reason, we are going to be starting off with our Shrouded Suffocation with a Garrote into a Rupture into another Garrote. After this, we are going to be using our Vendetta followed by our Toxic Blade, and then we are going to Envenom. In this time frame, the 9 seconds of when we have our Toxic Blade, you're going to have your Trinkets up, you're going to have your Racials up, you're going to have your Vendetta up. This is where you want to be really bursting hard. So you want to be spamming the Mutilates up to 4 to 5 combo points, and then making sure that we get the Envenoms out at that point. Next up, if we are running the Master Assassin, we want to make sure that we are making use of this crit window, and we are going to be pooling a little bit at the start, getting our 4 to 5 combo points for the first Envenom, and then we are going to Vanish Envenom straight into another Mutilate. And this is exactly the same, except it is going to guarantee us pretty much a 4 CP Mutilate. There is a chance of us getting a 3 CP Mutilate, but if your crit is high enough, this chance is going to be increasingly lower. Last but not least, for our multi-target with the Garrote, we want to make sure that we are opening up with Garrote on as many targets as possible, rupturing one target, Vendettaing it, and then getting our Exsanguinate on it. Once this is done, we want to get our we want to be making sure we're getting Crimson Tempest on 3+ targets, and then we want to make sure that we are maintaining 2 to 3 ruptures, and then maintaining this Crimson Tempest, or of course Envenom if you are running Poison Bomb. As for your Vanish, if you are running Shrouded Suffocation and Subterfuge, make sure that you are garroting as many characters as possible, and make sure that you aren't screwing up your Pandemics with the previous Garrotes or with the Exsanguinated Garrote / Rupture combo. As for our standard rotation on the Assassination Rogue, it's pretty simple after it comes out of the opening stages. It's pretty much based around keeping 2 to 3 ruptures up, or of course 1 rupture up if you're just doing single target, and then after that just trying to min-max your Toxic Blade and your Exsanguinate depending on what you're running. So in our AoE situations, we want to be making sure that we are applying Garrote and Rupture on these 3 targets if possible, And if we have Crimson Tempest, we are going to be making sure we are using this 3+ target and using Envenom for 1 to 2 target, even if you have this talent selected. Of course, what we need to do on top of this is we need to make sure we are getting big bleeds on the target before we use our Exsanguinate, and we want to make sure that we are getting as many Envenoms into our Toxic Blade window as possible. The way that we can do this is, for Exsanguinate, you can get a large rupture, preferably 30 seconds plus on the target. So what this means is, if your rupture is about to fall off and your Exsanguinate is coming up in say 5 seconds, you want to put on a 3+ CP rupture onto the target, then you want to put on a 5 CP rupture onto this target. What this is going to do is it is going to use the pandemic window to give you the biggest rupture possible, and then after this you can use your Exsanguinate and you're going to have a very strong rupture for the next 16 seconds. Make sure that you do not override this rupture, as if you put another rupture on top of this, even within the pandemic window, it is going to decrease the damage and your haste regen, as well as crippling your energy regeneration that you would be getting from the Exsanguinated Blade. Of course, my main tip if you are going for the Toxic Blade is to make sure you are reapplying your dots before you use the Toxic Blade. Now sometimes you can't really help this because they are out of pandemic windows, but if your Toxic Blade is up in 5 seconds and your rupture has 7 seconds or less left on it, I recommend that you reapply your rupture and then you go into your Toxic Blade and your Envenom spam. Now you can also pull for this if you want to get in the potential 3rd Envenom into this window. However, this just requires a little bit of skill and practice. Now, of course, I'm going to be going over what consumables you want to be running and what gems and enchants you want to be running on the Assassination Rogue. Now, of course, if you're going for single target, you want to make sure that you are getting quick navigation and deadly navigation for your weapon. Now, you don't run double quick navigation, as this doesn't stack beyond 4 even if you run 2. It basically means that you apply this a little bit quicker. However, having the 2 individual stacks would give a lot more overall DPS. After this, you want to be looking at your stat priorities. Your haste and your agi might be very close, but if your agility is slightly higher than your haste, you want to make sure that you are gemming 1 agi gem and then the rest haste. And of course, for your rings, you want to make sure that you are gemming both of these with 37 haste. Now, the best food will be the Bountiful Captain's Feast. However, if you do not have this, make sure that you get yourself the Swamp Fish and Chips. These are what I run for Mythic Plus, as people don't generally feast for Mythic Plus itself. And of course, you want to be using your Potion of the Bursting Blood for 1 target, and you want to be using your Agility Potion for 2+ target on the Assassination Rogue. Last but not least, I'm just going to quickly go over what macros we want to be running and the implications of having a good UI setup on the Rogue. Now, for your macros, it's quite easy, honestly. You're trying to make sure that you get all of your racials and all of your trinkets into your cooldown abilities. Now, for me, I have my trinkets bound in with my Vendetta, my Vanish, and my Toxic Blade / Exsanguinate macro. Now I'm going to add these strings into the bottom of the video, so if you just want to copy paste these, then feel free. Of course, make sure that you're using 13 or 14 depending on what slot your trinket is in. I use it in the last slot, so I use 14 in all of my macros. And of course, feel free to download my weak auras. These weak auras, I find they are quite functional and they are quite basic. So if you're looking to put in a little bit more yourself, feel free to edit them. However, these are just baseline and these are what I use for 100% of my gameplay. Now that just about wraps up my video on the Assassination Rogue in BFA. Now honestly, play your heart out, get a lot of practice in on this class. It does take a little bit of time to get used to the pooling and multi-dotting, especially on a melee class. However, if you guys put a few weeks into it, get a lot of haste gear, I can assure you that you guys are going to do extreme amounts of damage. Of course, if you guys like this video, make sure to thumbs it up and make sure to subscribe to my channel for more rogue and other class gameplay. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.